शुक्लां वरदरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणी विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. So in the last session we were looking at Varaha Purana. Only little part of Varaha Purana is remaining, the concluding part. So let's finish that. So if you remember, in the last session we were looking about the worship of Shaligrama, and then how you have to prepare the prasad of Charanamrita, just as we make Panchamrita. Similar to that is Charanamrita. With that we had stopped in the last session. Next we will continue now. Now few rituals again with regards to the last rites or the Shraddha Karma that we do, that has been mentioned in the concluding part of Varaha Purana. Let's just have a quick look at that. So again, Goddess Earth, she requests Lord Varaha that you explain the meaning or the definition of Pitru Yajnam that we do and what is its significance. So Varaha starts his story. He says that sage Nimi, he was the first person who had performed these rituals of Pitru Karma or Pitru Yajna as we say, after the death of his son Atreya. Atreya was the son of Nimi. And sage Atreya, he was very famous. He was known for his penance that he did for about 10,000 years. And when Atreya died, at that time Nimi obviously became very sad and he decided he wanted to do something or the other so that he'll be free from sorrow. But then that whatever he tried, he couldn't do that. So he mourned his son's death for, it is said that he mourned his son's death for about 3 consecutive nights. And finally he decided that maybe if I do the Pitru Karma, the Shraddha Karma, maybe I'll feel satisfied and start with my daily life again. And that's how he decided to do the Shraddha Karma on the 12th day of Magha, in the month of Magha. And on that day he invited many Brahmins, he gave them food and so on. And he gave the same food which Atreya, that is his son Atreya, liked to consume. So these were a few things like just how we do in today's times. Similarly, the sage Nimi also had done the same thing. Okay, just one second. Yeah. And then once he finished all that, now it is said that usually if you see, when we start doing the karma, it takes about, we start maybe on the 9th or 10th day and then it concludes on the 13th day. Few people, they start doing it from day 1 and so on. So similarly, but here what this Nimi did is all the rituals that he had to do for the 13 days period or so, he did all that in one day. And he also performed the rituals of Pindadanam that we do. Then he donated a lot of vegetables, fruits. So in general he donated basic necessities that are needed. He also took some kushagra, chanted mantras. So basically he did all the Pitru Karma. But in spite of all this, doing all this also, he was again not at all peaceful. So now he kept on thinking that maybe I have done all this karma maybe for the first time. So maybe that is the reason why I'm not feeling satisfied or what it is. He doesn't understand it also. He keeps on thinking what should be done. And finally he comes to the conclusion that maybe I have done this. Like he feels very worried, and maybe he comes to this conclusion that I am only the first one who is doing all this. So that can be the reason for my thinking. So towards the end what he decides is that all this trouble every day I cannot suffer, so he decides to end his life. That's a suicidal thoughts start coming in his mind. And at that time what happens is that sage Narada comes in and he tells him that there is nothing to worry, that whatever you have done is the most right, and even after your death also there are many people who are going to follow this karma. So what he told him that you remember all your ancestors. Now you have done all this karma for your ancestors, right? So you remember all of them, and in a few days all your worries, everything will vanish away. And he just remembered all his, Nimi remembered his father, and his father in fact had told him all the rituals that are to be done in the Pitru Yajna. So that is the reason he had done the Pitru Yajna. Of course, it was many years before when Nimi was still a child. So that's how he had done this Pitru Karma. And after doing all this, finally, now he was happy, and then while he was thinking about his father who had told him the different rituals of Pitru Karma, finally he comes to a conclusion that whatever I have done is right. And then different things come to his mind, that what his father had explained. So that father's explanation has been told here. Now Pitru Karma is something which Nimi's father, he tells that it was given by, or it was told by none other than Lord Brahma himself, and he was the first one who had performed all these rituals. And later on, Brahma, he had told all these rituals to Narada, and that's why Narada, he came and told Nimi that whatever you have done is absolutely correct, you don't have to worry about this. And then next, Nimi's father had also told Nimi what had to be done in the right way. And it is said that when a person is about to die, what he should do is, now about to die is, now no one can make out, right, when death will come in. But then in old age, or especially that is the reason why many people in old age, you see, they start reading all these religious books, or they will listen to religious discourses and so on. Of course, they should not be started at a late age, but still people usually spend their time doing that. What is the reason is, in case I die anytime also, I will always be in a good environment, because I am always doing good and positive things, so I will die peacefully. So this is what is the thought behind old age, behind the thought that in old age people usually do a lot of religious activities and so on. But now death is of course unpredictable, right? It can happen anytime. So it is always better that we indulge in only good things. So here Nimi also kept doing all this, wherein Nimi's father tells him that an old person should always, not an old person, a person who fears death also, should always spend his time in maybe doing good deeds, and maybe donate a cow, donate good things, give in charity. So basically do all kinds of good things. So person who does this will always die peacefully. And that is the reason why even after a person is dead, we chant a few mantras, right? We chant the names of the Lord in the person's ears, even though the person is dead. The reason being, it is said that even after a person dies, for some time the years, whatever you tell, that's the reason why different mantras are all chanted. So that's the reason we chant the names of the Lord while a person dies. So the different names of the Lord are chanted, and then we put about Madhuparakam, Samarpayami. Usually we put only puffed rice in the mouth, but some people also mix curd. Now what is Madhuparakam is, you mix curd, butter, honey and milk. Sorry, not milk, is water. Curd, water, honey and butter, if you mix together, that is called Madhuparakam. Basically you can say a sweet solid mixture that is there, and that is put in the mouth of the dying person. And different prayers are chanted so that the soul attains moksha. So these are all different karmas that have been told. And then the dead body is, maybe in those times they used to keep it under a tree or so, and then ghee, oil, other things used to be put, and then from under the tree the body used to be carried to a cremation ground, and further the rituals used to be done. Now in today's times, of course, we don't keep the dead body near the tree or so. Now that is instead of that, you see, that's the reason why in the stretcher that we carry, I'm not telling the ambulance stretcher, even today if you see in some places, especially if you go to villages and all, the stretcher on which the dead body is put in will be always made of kusha grass. In some places you can see that, dry grass. Maybe in cities and all we cannot see that much directly from the ambulance, also they bring the bed, that is another thing. But the first thing is, it is placed there, and then that kusha grass kind of, they prepare that. It is a temporary like a stretcher or bed you can consider. On that the dead body is placed, and further then is carried to the cremation. So just to symbolize this, where in earlier times, as the Purana mentions, that you have to keep it under a tree also. And today's times, of course, to some extent we cannot follow all this, but traditionally all these things were being done. Further we see that then different directions have been told, and then all the different places of pilgrimage are remembered, different mantras are chanted and so on, and finally the body is lighted, and then different tarpanam is done, pindadanam is done, different rituals are performed. And then after returning home, all the people, they should take a bath, purify themselves, and then the next 10 days is Ashaucham that we call, and all the relatives from the same Gotram who are there, they have to follow this. So this is what has been told. Now next, what is Ashaucham that has been described? Ashaucham is basically means impurity, and during this period of 10 days, the son of the person who has died is considered to be impure. Now impure in the senses, now see, now things have been associated with religion today. Ashaucham, don't go out for 10 days, don't go to a temple, don't do good things, and so on has been told. But very scientifically and logically also, if you speak, at least for those 10 days when we maintain that period of Ashaucham, we must not maybe, you go out and you live as if it's just your normal life, you're not affected by anything. If we just go and start celebrating outside, it's as if we don't care and respect for the person who has died. So now in today's times, of course, things have changed. Yesterday only my father died. Today I am some people very proudly say that, no, today I am back to normal. Getting back to normal is fine, but why even this period has been introduced, or why even we do the Shraddha Karma? The rituals and the religion is one part. Another part to it is, at least once in a year we remember that person. We remember our ancestors. When we can remember our birthdays, we should also remember the death anniversaries that is there. Maybe the day on which they die, we don't celebrate. We follow the karma on the tithi on which a person dies. So like this, different rituals have been told. So why I'm telling you this is, we must not just look at this with only a religious perspective, or just something has been written so I have to follow the tradition and custom. It is not like that. Very logically also, if you speak, like maybe for the last 70-80 years my father was with me, he was responsible for my upbringing and so on, he lived with me, he guided me, has done everything for me. And then one day he dies and I'm just getting back to life as if nothing has happened. That doesn't mean that we sit and cry and maybe the rest of our life also we waste. But at least for those 10 days or so we must dedicate, and it's just like a remembrance how we have. So though we do the different rituals and so on, those 10 days are why it is called as Ashaucham. Impurity is you don't indulge in your everyday activities and maybe normal life. After 10 days, slowly, once things start settling in, you can start your daily activities. This is what has been told. And on this again we do a lot of Tarpanam, Pindadanam, this and that, everything. That is the reason why you see till the 10th day, those who do the karma you will know, on the 10th day the priest will chant a word Preta. Till the 10th day, the word that is used in the mantras will be Preta. Bhuta, Preta, Pishachadi we say. Preta is a dead body or like a ghost. Once the 10th day rituals are done, the body leaves the ghost form. It is ascending towards heaven slowly. That is the reason when the 11th day usually we don't do any rituals. 12th and the 13th day. 13th is of course the Shanti that we do, and the 12th is a normal, like a puja we consider. If you see after the 10th day, the word Preta will never be used. Maybe next time if you have something or you go and visit someone's house. Usually for the 13th day rituals also people call us, right, in relatives and all. You can notice never the word Preta will be used. That is the reason after the 10th day, the priest might tell you to splash Ganga water everywhere, maybe go to a temple and so on. We do that, right, on the 12th or 13th day. This is the reason for that. The word Preta will never be used. The priest himself will tell you that till now we were using the word Preta. Now the body has left the ghost form. It is now slowly ascending towards heaven. So from today onwards, we will not consider Preta. It is not a dead body at all. The soul is going to ascend further. It is in the path of taking the next birth, or if it has done good deeds, it is going to attain moksha without taking rebirth. So there is a science, or you can say there is a belief behind each and everything that we do. So this is a period of Ashaucham. Further, Varaha also tells that there are different rituals that should be done even during these 10 days. Now again, these things are traditionally mentioned in the Puranas. How far people we follow today, that depends on us. Like on the 3rd day, a person should take a bath in a river, and then 3 pindas have to be offered. Then on the 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th days, one pinda each has to be offered, one palm full of water. So usually in villages people used to follow such things because there used to be a river flowing nearby. In cities now maybe we don't find all this, we cannot do, so we don't do that. But this is what is done traditionally. And then one more reason is, wherever we do the Pinda Danam, it is said that we must not, like yesterday if I did in so and so place, tomorrow I should not come and do it in the same place. Today it should be in a different place. So wherever you offer the pindas, every day the spot of offering should be different. This is what has been mentioned. Then on the 10th day, now in certain traditions, especially in North India and Central India, if you see, the son and other family members, they will cut off or tonsure their hair, they will change their clothes, and then bath and everything has to be taken. You apply oil and sesame seeds, with that we use for taking our bath. This is, and then on the 11th day we have the Ekodishta Shraddha. The Shraddha is called as Ekodishta. Again, rituals has to be performed, pindams has to be done. And this Ekodishta Shraddha is one Shraddha, or the 11th day rituals. They are common for all the 4 classes of the society: Brahmana, Vaishya, Shudra as well as Kshatriya. Ekodishta Shraddha. Now if you see the Shraddha karma itself, now all of us, you are a Brahmana, you are a Vaishya, you are a Shudra, you are a Kshatriya. Nobody will say that no, in our house when a person dies, we do only 1 day, or we do only 13 days, we do only for 1 year. Nobody will say like that. Here, though we all belong to different classes, we all follow the Shraddha karma. The Shraddha karma is common for all castes. Maybe the ways of doing are different. The tradition might differ. Nobody here will say, no, we don't have this concept of this 13th day, 10th day, nothing like that. Everyone will have that. Surely there will be no person who is not heard. Maybe you don't have it in your family. Like, rather than not having, you are not doing it. Though you don't do it, you have still surely heard about it, right? So this is one karma which is common all over the world, all over India. Let's consider our country, all over the country, which everyone does it, especially the 11th day karma, that is there, Ekodishta Shraddha. When Brahmins are invited on the 13th day, again Brahmins are invited, you feed them, and the Brahmins who come, they are all considered to be our ancestors only. Then in those now, what is the purpose of offering a pindam? That also has been told. Why do we do that pindadana? Pindadana is nothing wherein we make balls of rice, offer some til seeds. Some people even make balls of cereals. Like rice is main, though it has been mentioned cereals. Rice, what else you can consider cereals? Maybe star, the different grains that we use, like wheat and so on. But usually wheat we don't consider much, we don't use much. Main that is used is only rice. Then all the rituals are performed either facing south or east directions. Usually that is what is told. Mainly you do it facing the east direction. Only the Tarpanam and the Pindadanam, that is done using the southwards direction, wherein the priest tells you to change your direction. Now, a number of offering about 64 pindas has been mentioned traditionally. Now nobody counts how much we do, but during the entire 10-13 days period, about 64 pindas have to be offered. Now some people do it even under a peepal tree, because that is considered very auspicious. And the place in which we do, usually most of us we do in our houses now, but nowadays you have those places, right, near the maybe the cremation ground, only you have centers that are built wherein you can go there and do all the karma. So then you don't have to put in a lot of efforts. They make all arrangements. You have to just go do the rituals and you can come back. So all the things, the arrangements, they are made by those death centers or whatever. Those, it can be even charitable organizations also. So usually in olden times when people used to do it in natural surroundings, like maybe near a river bank or under a tree also, the place should be very, very clean. Like for example, if you are doing it in a village area or in an open area, obviously animals and other things like maybe pigs or dogs, local birds, animals, crows and so on, they come, the place should always be kept clean. That is what is mentioned. And if animals like this, dogs, pigs or even hens and cocks, if you are living in a village, such the animals used to come, they said that the soul or whatever the karma that you are doing, that will be useless. That is mainly when these animals come, obviously they are going to make it dirty, right, walk about here and there and so on. So the place should always be kept clean. So the place should always, correct. So mainly in a very pure place, pure clean place, it should be done. And then all the people, usually whoever has come, be it your relatives, friends or whomever you call, or even someone like just to visit or so, also sometimes people come, right, all of them should be offered food. Now further, lot of donations are being given, like umbrella, clothes, food items, ornaments, all this are given to the Brahmins as per one's own capacity. All this is considered to be very auspicious. Now further, Prithvi, she asks Lord Varaha that what are the mistakes that are usually done during the Shraddha karma and how they can be prevented. So for this again Lord Varaha says that before the karma is entirely done, before the Brahmins and the priests have taken food, if someone eats food before that, it is a grave sin. Because before offering to our ancestors, at least on that one day, we must not have food. Especially in today's times, we all have excuses, right? No, I have to go early, I have to leave, so maybe I'll just eat little and go. Or it's not that no I will not eat the karma food, that is mainly you cook for the priest and the guests. I'll cook something separately for me. You should not eat at all. That is what has been told. So this is the first sin that is there. And one who does this, it is said that you should observe a fast for 24 hours. That is for an entire day and night. So all these are different things that has been told. Different other rituals, Prayashchitam also has been told. Maybe you have to take a bath in the river, to perform tarpana, make seeds, make different offerings of same seeds, Shanti Pata, Mangala Pata, and so on. So like this different Shanti Pat or the Mangala Shlokas that we chant, like Kshama Prarthana and so on, all that has to be chanted. So mainly to ask for forgiveness for the mistake that we have done. And some people also consume Panchagavyam. Panchagavyam is cow milk or urine and all that, because it is considered very auspicious. So people who have done such crimes, rather than crime, you can consider it to be sin also. So, but here in the Purana it is mentioned that it's equal to a crime only, because at least on that one day also we are not respecting our ancestors, and even on that day we want to consume meats. And second, that is showing disrespect. Now many times it happens, right? You invite all the Brahmins and the priests, they come to your house and sit, and the person is busy. Yeah, do fast, or maybe do fast, whatever you want to chant, do it. I have to leave, I have other work. This is disrespect. Nowadays, of course, priests also, they also wish to leave early. That is one part. But usually whatever we do must be done very sincerely. This is what has been told. Second is maybe you don't offer them proper meals, water and so on. Or maybe like you are not at all interested, just for the sake of doing things if we do. That is like showing disrespect to the Brahmins, which should not be done at all. So this is another sin. And at the same time, whatever we donate, the Brahmins and the priests who come to our house, now though we don't know who is going to come exactly, still it should be given only to deserving people. Like in today's times, or even in earlier times also, we have many money making people also coming in, right? So when you don't know what they are going to do, you have done the job of donation, doesn't mean that you are free from that. Okay, I have given him an umbrella, clothes, ornaments and so on. If you don't know what the person is going to do with that, then, and if he uses maybe for wrong purposes also, 50% papa has come to us. That is the reason why many people will not donate to roadside beggars or children who come begging, because maybe you give it to them, maybe they will use it for something else, like maybe smoking, drinks and so on. So the papa that they do, the sin that they do, you will also incur half, 50% of that. So these are all different sins that take place unknowingly. You don't mean it, but indirectly it has happened. So this way, even disrespecting the Brahmins and at the same time donating to unworthy Brahmins is also considered to be a sin. So we have to be very careful whom we call to our houses. Only then the karma is done completely and it is fulfilling. Now, how this Madhuparkam has to be prepared, I have already told you, and it is very, very important. Now, usually this we offered puffed rice, that is there, but this Madhuparkam is also a tradition that is offered to the dead body in many places. Then with this entire section ends about the different Pitru Karma rituals that have been told. Last is hell. What is hell, how it has been described, that has been told. Now for this there is a story. Once Janamejaya, now this is a conversation between Vaishampayana and Janamejaya. Does anyone know what is the conversation between Janamejaya and Vaishampayana called? No one?
In the Sarpa
Sorry?
He will put the entire Mahabharata in the Sarpa
Mahabharata. Correct. Mahabharata. Janamejaya and Vaishampayana, the conversation between both of them is the Mahabharata epic. So this part of the Varaha Purana that we are discussing, wherein Janamejaya asks sage Vaishampayana a few questions about Nachiketa, that also comes in the Mahabharata. It has also got reference in the Mahabharata. So once it so happened that this Janamejaya, now who is Janamejaya? Anyone knows?
Parikshit's son.
Parikshit's son, Janamejaya. So he once asked Vaishampayana that he was very much interested in death and hell because his father had died due to a snake bite. So he asked, what is this place of Yama? It's called as Yamarajapuri, the god of death Yama. It's the place where he lives is called Yamarajapuri. Where is it exactly located? And what should a man do so that he does not go to hell at all? So for this, Vaishampayana, he tells him the story of Nachiketa. Nachiketa is a blessed person who got a chance to go to this Yamarajapuri in his mortal body, that is not after death. While he was very much alive, he had gone to hell, that is Yamarajapuri. So there was a same sage called Udyalaka, or you can also call it as Udyalaka. He had a son Nachiketa, and once while the sage was performing a yajna, Nachiketa, he came there and he disturbed him. Now usually children, when they are doing something, they do come in between, they maybe keep on asking something, so they come and disturb. So similarly, this boy Nachiketa also was disturbing his father. So he repeatedly kept on asking the sage, to whom will you give me, whom will you give me, and so on. So 2-3 times Udyalaka just said, no, I will not give you to anyone. Maybe I'll, just for fun, the child was asking, or I'll give you to your teacher, I'll give you to your friend, and so on. 1-2 times he just left the child. But repeatedly the child, Nachiketa, kept on asking. Finally the sage, he got irritated and he said that you go to hell, I'm going to give you to Yama. And as soon as he said this, immediately it was like a curse that turned out to be true. And later the sage regretted, oh, what I said in anger. And Nachiketa, what happened is that more than the curse getting, now many times he had told you go to a teacher, you go to your friend, you go here, go there. Finally when he said go to hell, Nachiketa was ready to go. He was very obedient. So he said, no, now I have to go to hell. So his father said, he tried his best to convince him, saying that no, you should not go. I just said simply because repeatedly you were coming, I got irritated and in my anger I just said so. Now Nachiketa says, no, I want to go, but you don't worry that I will return back safely. You need not worry on that. So Nachiketa finally goes to Yamarajapuri, he meets Yamaraja and he stays there for a few days and he witnesses all the events, all the things that were taking place there. And after he had seen all this, he asks permission from Yamaraja. He says, now I want to return back. And he returns back. His father was very happy to see his son alive. And very soon now, this was something very extraordinary, right? Going to hell and coming back. So many people came to Nachiketa's house and they wanted to know, what did you see there, what was your experience, and so on. And Nachiketa replied like there were all kind of sinners there, greedy people, liars, jealous people, or people who have done a lot of wrong deeds. Only such people go to hell. And Nachiketa, he said that even killers, like maybe someone who has done a murder or so, even those people also go to hell. So like this, they go there and for the sinful actions that they have done, they have to repay, they have to repent by maybe getting some punishments or doing some evil deeds, taking rebirth and so on. So like this, these are the people whom I found in Yamarajapuri. Further he says that this Yamarajapuri is made full of gold and it is spread in about 1000 yojanas, he says. And it is very difficult to reach this place, like nobody can come and attack. And here all the sinners, they have to experience a lot of torture and trouble for all the sinful actions that they have done. And there are different rivers also that are flowing, trees and so on. And so like this, mainly the place, even geographically also, it is very big. So like this, he starts explaining about Yamarajapuri and so on. Different sages keep coming there. Goddesses, all the ferocious goddess also comes there. Ferocious goddess, it can be Kali, that name has not been mentioned. A goddess is there. Then time is there. Now what is time? Now, time is equal to death, or Kalaha as we say. So that time in the form of a human being, like in the form of a man, frequents hell to see whose time period is done. Okay, you have repented for all your actions, come back. Now you have to take a birth. One, maybe he brings out someone whose time is done on earth. He may be, due to his sinful actions, he brings him back on hell. So this is his work, taking people away, bringing people. So Kala also, I saw him there. And so like this, there are different 10 types of hells, he says. Tapta, Mahatapta, Raurava, and so on. Like this, there are different hells, Sutala, Vitala, Talatala, and so on. And more than the previous one, the next one is very, very serious. So depending on one's deeds, different hells are mentioned. And then based on their sins that are there, and Yamaraja himself, he instructs his assistant, who is Chitragupta, to give punishment to all the sinners who are there. Next is the concept of karma. Now what happens of karma? Karma vipaka. What is karma vipaka? Is based on the karma or the actions that we do, we are going to get fruits. And further, Nachiketa, he continues with his explanation. He says that Chitragupta, he sees a record of all the people. Now just a few days back we celebrated what? Akshaya Tritiya, right? Not Akshaya Tritiya, what was the occasion? Akshaya Tritiya only, I suppose, wherein Chitragupta he sees, that is one day wherein Chitragupta he considers whatever a person has done all through his life, what are the good deeds, evil deeds. Based on that, he decides where a person should go and which hell he should go. Sorry, Chitra Purnami. Sorry, not Akshaya Tritiya, Chitra Purnami, correct. So on that day, he goes, and this is what is done on the day of Buddha Purnami or Chitra Purnami as we call. So on that day, all this calculation is done. Okay, you have done good deeds, you should get good fruits. You have done evil deeds, you should get evil fruits, and so on. So like this is what is done by Chitragupta, the assistant of Yamaraja, and then all the punishments, everything is decided. So this is something wherein both Chitragupta and Yamaraja, they sit together, and Nachiketa had witnessed all this. So few things he tells that maybe the people who are virtuous or who are very good, they will be sent to heaven, they will not enter hell at all, but they can also take birth maybe as a tree or as an animal or any other creature depending on one's own needs. But sinners or people who have committed a lot of sins, like for example, if they have abandoned their own partners like wives or husbands, they will go to a hell called Raurava. Then those who have extreme attachment maybe towards women or towards, you can say anything. Now attachment is not wrong, but over attachment, that is what is being talked about. So maybe towards material things and so on, they will they will have to take a rebirth as normal human beings only. Then people who have given their life, that is who have become martyrs for the country or so on, or while fighting a battle, a yuddham, they will reach Indrapuri. Indrapuri is heaven, Swargaha, wherein they will enjoy all the pleasures of heaven. And those who have done always good deeds all through their life, they will be rewarded for their good actions. So this is how the description is done. Further, he says that there are different ways of liberation that has been told, wherein Narada he asked once what happened is, this Nachiketa continues now. Narada once asked Yamaraja, it seems, that why do human beings face joy and sorrow? Today they are happy, tomorrow the same person becomes sad, and again on the third day becomes happy. So why does this shifting takes place? One day happy, one day sad, one day happy, one day sad. So Yamaraja says that is because of man's own actions. He does good things, he is very happy. Next minute, if things don't happen the way he wants, he does not like it, he reacts, he gets angry, then he feels bad. So things will never happen only as per one's own thought. Like for example, if I want the whole world to function as I want, no, I want this person to be like this, I want this thing to be like this, without respecting someone else's way of thinking, obviously I'm going to be sad, right? If things don't happen the way I want. Like there are many people, including all of us also, we are very stubborn. So wherein if things don't happen the way I wish, the person will not like it. Like this, they cannot adjust. So Yamaraja says the same thing. He tells Narada that if people don't develop the quality of adjustment, then it is going to be very difficult, because actions or the fruits are going to be given as per one's actions. So if you do good deeds, you are going to get good fruits. If you do bad, you have to face for that. So therefore life is full of happiness as well as sorrows. So then therefore a person, when he is in a good state, when he feels that he is surrounded by good people, positive people, he should keep on doing good deeds, so that in the bank that is there, bank of karma, all our good deeds are always stored. So this is what Yamaraja gives an answer for this. Further, with this Nachiketa completes his discourse. In detail it has been mentioned in the Varaha Purana. I just told you gist. And then different sins, how they can go away, maybe making a pilgrimage to different places, observing fast on Ekadashis, doing good karma like pujas, chanting mantras and so on. All this will free us from different sins that we would have committed knowingly and unknowingly. Further, towards the end, it is just on generalized topics that are there. You don't have a specific topic as such. It talks about the place Gokarneshwara, that is today's Gokarna in Karnataka. It's become a very popular tourist place, but mainly it is famous of the Shivalingas that are there. Now, the famous battle of Tarakasura, or you also call it as Taraka and Maya. Now, Tarakasura was killed by Lord Kartikeya, right? Kartikeya had to take a birth to kill this Tarakasura. So, the war had ended, and the gods had defeated the demons and once again they had got the control of heaven. So at that time Lord Brahma was very satisfied and he was very happy. So at that time the four Sanat Kumaras, they come to Brahmaloka and tell that, oh Lord, we want to know about the origin of the three famous Shivalingas, Uttara Gokarna, Dakshina Gokarna and Shringeshwara, and so on. So even today if you go to Gokarna, just like in Goa also we have, right, South Goa, North Goa, in Gokarna also you have the Shivalingas, the temples that you go there. One is the main, the Shri Kshetra Gokarna, and then you have different other Shiva temples. Of course, today Gokarna is known mainly for its beaches, but you also have a few Shiva temples there. And Gokarna is this place wherein Lord Shiva had to take a form of a deer. So what is the reason for that? The Sanat Kumaras ask Brahma and Brahma gives an answer. So Brahma replied that this place is very beautiful, lot of rivers, lakes and springs are there, and the deities, even gods, also feel like staying in this place. And the place here wherein we have Lord Shiva, that is called as Sthanu Maheshwara. I don't know if till date you call the place the same thing, Sthanu Maheshwara. And Nandi, in the Treta Yuga, Nandi, who is the Vahana of Lord Shiva, in the Treta Yuga he was a Brahmin, he was a Brahmana, and he had done a lot of tapasya to Lord Shiva for about 1000 years. Finally Shiva became pleased and Shiva blessed Nandi with a form which was similar to Lord Shiva himself. So it was very difficult to make a difference between Nandi and Lord Shiva. So this was a boon that Shiva had given to Nandi. And Shiva then told that from today onwards you will be blessed with 3 eyes just like me. All the gods, demons, everyone will worship you. And just like all the qualities that I have, you will be also blessed with the same. And but it will be your duty that just like you're being a Vahana for me, you should be like a guide standing at the entrance, that is the dwelling place. So that is the reason we always have the Nandi outside all the Shiva temples. Lord Shiva then informed Nandi that now the gods are going to come and visit you, so you be ready for that. Now why this Shiva tells us before before the boon was given to Nandi, the gods are always seen Nandi only in the form of a Brahmin, not the form which Lord Shiva had blessed him, like a form similar to Lord Shiva only. So he tells now all the deities are going to come to worship you and so on, so now you be ready. So Lord Shiva, so after this Shiva disappeared and he lives in a Shlesha Mataka forest, the forest in Karnataka. It's called a Shlesha Mataka near Gokarna. There Shiva lives in the form of a deer, but Nandi, he was not aware of this. And Nandi, he got a divine form after Shiva told all this. And immediately when the gods came to see Shiva, they found Nandi there, but they could not make any difference. But still, a few of the gods could make out that this is not Shiva, this is Nandi who is here. Because now, though he had 3 eyes and a form similar to Lord Shiva, still they could make out the difference that this was not Shiva, this is Nandi, and they understood that this will not happen without the blessings of Lord Shiva. So immediately they approach Nandi and they tell him that you tell where is Shiva. But Nandi told that even I am not aware, because Shiva just went away after blessing me. And he told all the gods that you only find out Shiva in the nearby areas if you see him. And the gods, they started searching Shiva in all the 3 worlds, heaven, hell, earth and so on. And Brahma says, now Brahma is telling this story to the Sanat Kumaras, and Brahma says that I was also present in this search team that was going about of the gods, and I sat down to meditate. And while I was meditating, I came to know that Shiva was living in the form of a deer in the forest, Shlesha Mataka forest, and I told this to all the other gods. Now all the other gods, they went there and they finally found Lord Shiva in this form. And the deer, Shiva, he had 1 head on his head. And now deer obviously is going to run, right, in the forest. So all the gods also, they ran behind the deer with the desire of holding it. And Indra finally held the horn of the deer, and Brahma, so Brahma is talking, he says that I held the middle portion of the Lord, and similarly Lord Vishnu, he took care of the lower part. And very soon the horn came out that was held by Indra, it came out, and Lord Shiva, he vanished. Now what happened is that 3 pieces of horn, now because the horn was taken out forcibly, the horn broke into 3 pieces. Now only the horn was left, Shiva had disappeared. And now we all felt very bad that, so Brahma says that all we gods, we felt very bad because Shiva had left us in this state, we couldn't find Shiva at all, we just got the horn. So at that time Shiva's voice is being heard, wherein he tells that you install these pieces of horn at this very place, that is Gokarna. The upper part becomes famous as Uttara Gokarna, middle portion became as the Dakshina Gokarna, and third part of the horn which Vishnu installed became famous as Shringeshwara. Now, though this has been mentioned as Gokarna, which is present in today's Gokarna place that we have in Karnataka, some people also, or it is mentioned in the Varaha Purana only, that all these three temples are in today's Nepal also. So it can be today's Gokarna also we have Shiva temples. Similarly, in Nepal also we have the Shiva temple wherein we do the Amarnath Yatra, Pashupatinath and so on. Pashupatinath. So that is again, the story is quite similar, therefore people are a bit confused. You can say there can be a similarity between both. It can be even in India's Gokarna as well as in Nepal, that is there. So in the Varaha Purana it is also mentioned that today these three places of Uttara Gokarna, Dakshina Gokarna and Shringeshwara are situated in Nepal, and the Shlesha Mataka, this forest, is also there in Nepal. It is about a few miles from the famous Pashupatinath temple there. And Sanat Kumara, he thanked finally Lord Brahma on telling how Lord Shiva attained the form of a deer and so on. So mainly the temple is situated in today's Nepal, it is said so, but as per local folklores and so on, you also get to know that this can be resembled to Gokarna also because of the names that are there, and also quite a few similarities because we have a lot of Shiva temples in Gokarna too. Next is the story of Agastya. Now, Agastya, once he tells the following story to a king called Bhadrashva. So now this is a conversation between sage Agastya and this king Bhadrashva. So once he tells that Narada once went to Lord Brahma and he tells Lord Vishnu, and he asks Vishnu, what are the means of attaining you, and what are the means of attaining Vaikuntham and so on. So Lord Vishnu replied that those who chant mantras, like for example the Purusha Sutta or different Vedic mantras like Narayana Sutta, they can surely realize and attain me. And as per the Pancharatra, now the Pancharatra is a text that talks about different rituals that are to be performed. So those who follow all the rituals and perform according to that Pancharatra, they will also attain me easily. And all the other people who cannot follow all these rituals, they can just merely chant my names, whatever devotion they can do. They can do that, maybe offer like flowers, fruits, some naivedya, make a trip to holy pilgrimage places and so on. So sage Agastya, while he was talking all this to King Bhadrashva, he predicted and he also told that in the Kali Yuga, people will be sinners. There will be only a few people who will be doing all these things, and that is the reason it is going to lead to a lot of negative qualities there. They would abandon their own dharma. That is what they have to do rightly. Therefore, a lot of problems are going to arise. But sage Agastya, he tells Bhadrashva that you be careful, that maybe your ancestors or your successors who will be there in Kali Yuga, you guide your generations properly so that the next generation, even though they are born in the Kali Yuga, they will do all the rituals, they will follow bhakti and devotion properly, just as Lord Vishnu had advised and told Narada. So it is not only for King Bhadrashva, it is meant for all of us also, all the readers of the Purana. Now, again we have the Varaha Purana ends with a small story about Lord Vishnu and a few more stories of Gautama. So once sage Agastya, he had performed a grand yajna, he had organized a grand sacrifice in which all the different gods, sages, everyone was invited, and even the three gods, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, all were there. So here Agastya was puzzled. Now whenever guests come, we have to welcome them, right? But now he was puzzled, saying that all the three gods have come, Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva. Whom should I worship first? Who is superior amongst these three? And he asked Shiva. Shiva says that one who is worshipped by doing a lot of yajnas, one who is the source of this universe, it is not none other than Lord Janardana, that is Lord Vishnu himself, so he should be worshipped. And further Shiva says that he is the only one who should be worshipped in the three forms as Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesha. Now Rajoguna, that is, in case of Brahma, we know he was a bit we cannot maybe term it that way, but you say different. He had, as we know, the story of Shivalingas coming in, wherein Vishnu and Shiva had a debate, right, to find out the end of the Shivalinga. At that time, Brahma, he tells a lie and so on. That is the reason why Brahma does not have a temple, he is not worshipped much. So a bit, and even in the Krishna Avatara stories also we know how Brahma had hid the cows and the friends of Krishna. So like this, we cannot say sins also, but little, sometimes Brahma gets diverted. So a bit of Rajoguna is there, like you can say competitive spirit. I want to win over something, or I want to show my greatness. So therefore Brahma, we cannot consider him as top or the most superior. And Lord Brahma himself, we know, as per the Purana, Vishnu Purana, Bhagavad Purana and so on, he has come out from the navel of Vishnu. So obviously he cannot be superior than Vishnu. Then Shiva himself says that Tamo Guna is dominant in me because I live in the smashana, in about negative people with dead bodies, with skulls. So a bit of negativity is always there. I do the Tandava Nritya and so on. So therefore Shiva himself says that whereas Lord Vishnu is full of Sattva Guna, he should be worshipped by doing a lot of meditation in the Satya Yuga, in the Treta Yuga through different sacrifices, Dwapara Yuga just the rituals, and in Kali Yuga just by chanting him in any form that you want or by merely chanting his names. By all this, Shiva comes to a conclusion and he helps Agastya by saying that don't get confused, Vishnu is only more superior. So there can be two reasons to this. Shiva himself tells this because we know Shiva is the greatest devotee of Lord Vishnu. Secondly, this is Varaha Purana, therefore it tries to glorify Vishnu. But here again, we must not get confused. It is not to show that Vishnu is high, Shiva and Brahma are low. You will have some other Purana like the Linga Purana and the Shiva Purana showing that Shiva is high, Vishnu and Brahma are a bit low. Bit low in the sense the hero is glorified here. That doesn't mean that the other two are inferior. But to start with, you can start with Vishnu and then you come to both the other gods. So in whichever way, because Agastya had raised this question, Shiva gives this explanation. Now, I'll give you a very simple example for this. Now, if all of us are 3 or 4 people, if we go somewhere, amongst us also now, if someone comes and offers us, say for example 3 or 4 people, we go to someone's house as guests, right? So when they will offer us some food also, when they serve it on the plates, obviously we'll say no, first you give it to that person, then you give it to me, right? It just comes. So that doesn't mean that we are inferior and that person is superior, right? You just say no, first you give it to the children, or maybe no, you give it to the old people, or no, let them have, then I will have, right? Why do we do this? Or if someone comes to our house, what do? We first give it to the guests. We say no, all of you eat and then I will eat. This doesn't mean that we are inferior and the guest is superior. It's not like that. Just a sense of respect that we have. Same thing here has been told by Shiva, Brahma and Vishnu. Why I am telling you this is we should not get confused. Shiva is great, Vishnu is great, Brahma is great. Let us not get into all that. We are no one to judge. We are not great at all. We are at a very ground level. For us, all the gods are equal. So here, Agastya is satisfied with Shiva's answer and he starts with his operations. Now, in this sacrifice that was organized by Agastya, there were many sages also who had come. And some of them, they asked Lord Shiva that you have also created some scriptures. Like for example, Shiva's scriptures, if you see, they are a bit confusing. Like maybe what exactly these scriptures are. Like you can say tantras or a bit of tantrism that is there. Sometimes Shiva in some of the Puranas like Linga Purana and so on, we get those references. So it's not wrong, but then not a very common way. Now out of us also, out of 20-25 people who are there, how many of us we follow tantras or what exactly is tantrism? How many of us know? Maybe we have just read about it, but none of us follow, right? At home or so. Do we practice? No. We can maybe chant mantras, shlokas. We do something which is easy or which is easily acceptable to our minds and to our body parts, physically, mentally, what we can do easily that we do. But not much into tantrism and so on. Whereas Shiva's texts deal with that. So the sages here, they approach Shiva and say, why have you written texts? Why do you want to confuse us? So for this, Shiva tells that I have done all this to protect people from the curse of Gautama. Now what was the curse of Gautama? Let's see. Now sage Gautama, once he had done a lot of penance in the Dandakaranya forest. Now we know Dandakaranya forest from the Ramayana reference. So Lord Brahma became pleased and Lord Brahma gave him some divine seeds, saying that these seeds will produce some crops which will be permanent or eternal. They will always survive. They will never dry out at all. Gautama then he went to the Saptashringa mountain and he made his hermitage there. He sowed those seeds and he was very surprised when he saw the rice grains, that immediately, as soon as he sowed the seeds, immediately the seeds started sprouting and rice grains grew. And for many years he lived happily with all his disciples. In the course of time, the entire country had a famine-like situation, but whereas Gautama's place, because of the divine seeds that were given by Brahma, Gautama's hermitage was full of rice grains. There was no shortage at all. So a few sages, they came to Gautama's hermitage, and Gautama, he invited all of them with respect and so on. They enjoyed, and they decided to go to their places. And at that time, Gautama still pestered them, saying that you stay back and so on. But still, the sages then said, okay, let us see. But now when you say, now this story already, if you remember, we had seen in the previous Purana also. So here again what happens is that, but now the sages, they started getting jealous. Say, only this Gautama, he has got this divine deeds, and he is going to take a lot of name and prosperity, fame, everything he is going to gain, because he was the one who was given us protection. So now they started thinking about some ways wherein they could cheat Gautama. So they created a cow, like an illusionary cow, and they created such a situation as if Gautama has only killed this cow, and Gautama is now going to incur the sin of Gohatya, that is killing a cow. But finally what happened is, Gautama, he realized that this was like a plot that was placed against him, and then he did a lot of penance to please Lord Shiva. And then what Lord Shiva, what he told is that you have not at all killed a cow, but then you will get this power to know what exactly happened and so on. So it is said that before Gautama did this penance to Lord Shiva, he did not know that actually he had not killed the cow, it was just an illusion. So in that what happened is that because of the sin he had committed, the locks of hair that he was wearing, the jata that was there on top of the sage's hair, that had got you can say it got gone away, or maybe he was very disturbed. Now this, when we say his lock of hair was gone away, that is his jata was gone away, when now we are disturbed also, we don't take care of our body, right? We don't feel like doing anything. So the same thing happened in the case of Gautama also. So he was looking very, his physical appearance was also very disturbing, or you can say not very pleasing to look at. So Gautama, once he had done penance and Lord Shiva comes, Gautama tells Shiva that you please give me a lock of your hair. We know Shiva is Jatadhari. So Lord Shiva agreed, he gave him a lock of his hair. And Gautama then, what he did is, where the cow's body, where usually cow's body was lying, he goes, he sprinkles some water, and using this hair he places there. And immediately the usually cow disappeared, and a river started flowing in that place. And at that time, all the Saptarishis, they come there, they bless Gautama, and Gautama immediately he realizes that some prank was being played on him, and he cursed all the sages that they will lose the knowledge of the Vedas, they will no longer be sages, they can no longer perform any Vedic rituals and so on. He curses all the sages. Now all the Saptarishis, they requested Gautama, saying that these sages have committed a mistake, you please forgive them and so on. That then Gautama, he said that I will revise the curse a bit. He said that this curse will come true only in the Kali Yuga, and the Brahmins will not be affected in all the other three yugas, that is Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga. There will be no effect of this curse, but in the Kali Yuga, surely these priests or the sages whom I have put this curse, they will be affected. And Lord Shiva, then now Shiva is telling all this story to the sages who had assembled in Agastya's sacrifice. They had asked Shiva, why have you created such texts and scriptures that are very difficult and confusing for the readers? So Shiva tells them the story, and he tells that when the Saptarishis, they came to me and informed, saying that this Gautama's curse is going to come true in the Kali Yuga, at that time I created Shiva Samhita from my breath, which is similar to the Vedas, and all the importance of rituals, everything has been mentioned there. And I did this for the sages, so that in the Kali Yuga, even when sages and all the Brahmins, if they forget their rituals and they will not have the knowledge of the Vedas, at that time, by reading my Shiva Samhita, they will regain all the knowledge that is there. Though people will give a little respect to the Vedas, still at least something will exist, little knowledge at least will be there, and then confusion will surely be there. That is the reason even today's times also we can see there is a lot of confusion, that what should I follow? I should follow this, I should follow that. More than following and agreeing to something, we end up creating confusion, right? Even a small thing that is there. Now when is Ekadashi? Some people will say tomorrow. You ask your family, please, he will say day after tomorrow. You ask your grandmother, she will say today. You ask a third, you ask your neighbor, they will say tomorrow. You see now Ekadashi, you have to celebrate all the 3 days, today, tomorrow, day after tomorrow. This is where confusion comes in. I'm just giving you an example even for everyday small things and rituals that we do. So imagine about Vedas and scriptures and so on. So Shiva himself mentions that there is going to be a lot of confusion. So just to reduce that and to ensure that Gautama's curse, it is going to be true in the Kali Yuga, but to people who study this Shiva Samhita that I have created from a breath, which is similar to the Vedas, has the same knowledge of rituals and so on. At least to some extent, people who study that will have little knowledge of the Vedas. Okay, so now we still have a small topic of Prakriti and Purusha, and also about different lokas that have been mentioned, islands and so on. Though we have seen this in the Vishnu Purana, little we will just look at this tomorrow. Let's not start because now time is up. If we start, then we cannot finish. So we'll stop here for today. Tomorrow we'll continue with Varaha Purana and start with Bhavishyat Purana. The Bhavishyat Purana is a very small Purana comparatively. Bhavishya, it has just predictions of the future, what will happen in future. For us, not in like it has already happened for us. It's not future for us, it's like past only. Like when the Bhavishya Purana was created, at that time it was future for them. So that is the reason why in all these Purana scriptures you have Kali Yuga that is also written as future, because in those times Kali Yuga had not taken place. Today the Kali Yuga has started, so we can consider recent past for all the happenings that has been mentioned in the Bhavishya Purana. Okay, so we will stop here for today. We will continue in the next session. Hari Om, Namaste. We'll start. Om Shuklam Varadaram Vishnum Shashivaranam Chaturbhujam Prasanna Dhyayet Sarvavighnopashantaye Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambam Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So we'll continue. So yesterday we were looking at Varaha Purana. So just little part is remaining. So let's quickly look at that and then we'll start with the next Purana. Now Varaha Purana, towards the end we have the concept of Prakriti and Purusha. So if you remember in the last session we had ended with Gautama getting that is Gautama giving the curse to all the other sages. Now we start with the concept of what is Prakriti and Purusha. Now again Lord Shiva, he describes this incident to Agastya, wherein he describes what exactly what was his experience when he saw Lord Narayana, that is Lord Vishnu. So at that time Shiva tells Agastya that Purusha is none other than Lord Narayana, and Prakriti is a medium through which all his powers and the different leelas that he does, that can be seen. So Prakriti in everyday language we regard as the goddess, because without the goddess the Lord cannot function. All his powers cannot be manifested. So therefore Shiva says that I am very fortunate enough to have seen this divine form of Narayana. And Lord Brahma, now here if you see in the earlier Puranas also we had seen that Rudra comes after Brahma. So therefore Lord Shiva here he regards that after the creation process had started, Lord Brahma had told Rudra also to create. But then Lord Shiva said that I don't know to create, I want to spend my time doing penance, tapasya and all that. And that's when I went inside the ocean. And when I went inside the ocean, I saw Lord Narayana, I saw a divine entity. We had seen this, if you remember earlier also this reference had come. So I saw like a divine entity, a divine appearance in front of me. The size was a bit more than a thumb. And finally I realized that this was none other than Narayana. And then I also saw Lord Brahma sitting on the navel from his lotus. And this is how Lord Shiva describes his appearance, describes his experience of seeing the Purusha, that is Lord Narayana, Lord Vishnu himself. Last is we have the reference of Bhuvan Kosha and the islands. What exactly is a Bhuvan Kosha? Is the different islands, Bhuloka and so on. Now, after this description was made by Shiva of how he had seen Purusha, that is Lord Narayana, in the Purusha Prakriti form, next they had a few more queries. And at that time Lord Shiva asks Goddess Uma, that is Goddess Parvati, that you please tell us about how this earth is expanded, what about the mountains, islands and so on. So you please elaborate on that. So the goddess who was there nearby, so the lords, they say that though the goddess was there nearby, they tell Shiva. Now in some references it is given that the goddess speaks there, but some references say that the sages, they just regard Lord Shiva as the Lord of Uma. So in the Varaha Purana we have this reference that the sages regard Lord Shiva as, O Lord of Uma, you please tell us about the different things that are present on earth, like mountains, islands and so on. So Shiva only starts talking about this, the entire thing. So firstly Lord Shiva replies that Bhuloka is on the surface of the earth, and earth is based in the Vakshasthalam of Lord Vishnu, that is in the chest of Lord Vishnu. This is a belief as mentioned in the Varaha Purana. And then different gunas, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Sattva is very good, Rajas is mediocre, Tamas is the low category. So first of all, water was there all around, and then Vishnu went into the Yoga Nidra state. Then we have Brahma, who comes from his navel sitting on top of a lotus, and that's how he started creation. First he created the Manasa Putras, the 4 Sanat Kumaras, Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanatana and Sanat Kumara. Then he created sages like Daksha. Daksha's daughter was Shatarupa, who was married to Manu, and then Priyavrata, Uttanapada and so on. The process starts. Then Priyavrata, he had 10 sons, and he had divided this Priyavrata. We had seen a story, if you remember initially. So this Priyavrata had divided the earth into 7 islands. Now he had about 10 sons, and out of that, each of his 7 sons he had given. So from the 10 sons to 7 sons, he had divided 7 islands and distributed it among his sons. And Jambudvipa is an island on which all of us stay, on which our country India is located, Bharatavarsha. That the king of Jambudvipa was Aghnigna. He became the king of Jambudvipa, and others, they became the rulers of all the other Dvipa, Shaka Dvipa, Krauncha Dvipa and so on. So all this description has been given in detail. Then the 4 yugas were there: Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Kali Yuga, and each Manvantara comprises of about 71 Chatur Yugas. Chatur Yugas is 4. Satya, Treta, Dwapara and Kali Yuga is this, all 4 together is 1 Yuga, 1 Chatur Yuga multiplied. So like this, 71 multiplied by 71, this is equal to 1 Manvantaram. So a little bit information we get of each of the Dvipas, each of the islands. First is Jambu Dvipa. Jambu Dvipa is spread over 1 lakh yojanas. It has got many small towns and cities in it. Frequently sages, siddhas, taranas, demigods keep visiting this island. It has got a lot of natural beauty. About 9 varshas are there, like Bharata Varsha is one of them. It is surrounded by various oceans on all sides. Even if you see the country India, it has got water on all sides. On east and the west lie saltwater oceans. We have the Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal. Then mainly the mountains of Jambu Dvipa, the Himalayas, the Sumeru mountains, Hemakuta, Nishada and so on. Same thing, same geographical features we can see even today. Then towards the east of the Sumeru mountain, you have a lot of Brahmins, or maybe priests, teachers. Then you have a lot of Vaishyas spread about towards the west, if you see. Then like this, there have been towards the north especially, you have a bit of Kshatriyas. That is the reason we have the army that is there towards the north who fight on the borders. So like this, these are all predictions that have been made in the Varaha Purana. So to some extent we can find the same thing too. Next is the Shaka Dvipa, which is twice Jambu Dvipa, and virtuous people live here who enjoy a long life. They are free from the tortures of old age. It has oceans on 2 sides. One is the saltwater ocean and second is the Ksheerasagara, ocean of milk. And mountain is called the Udayachala. Then you also have the Chandragiri. So like this, now usually these islands, it can be the other continents that we see around, but to some extent we cannot make out the same thing till modern geography. The research is still going about. Then you have Kushadvipa that is there, which is twice the area of Shaka Dvipa. 7 mountain ranges are there here called the Kula Parvatas. Then you have the Krauncha Dvipa, which has got twice the area of Kusha Dvipa. It also has got 7 ranges and rivers which flow about here, and it is surrounded by an ocean of butter, clarified butter, that is ghee, on all sides. Then this Kusha Dvipa has got Kusha grass in abundance. That's how it gets its name of Kusha Dvipa. Last is the Shalmali Dvipa. Shalmali Dvipa is a double of Krauncha Dvipa. It also has clarified ocean, that is clarified butter, ghee ocean on all sides, and there are again 7 rivers and mountains surrounding this Dvipa. And after telling all this, Lord Shiva, he disappears. Next, Varaha Purana towards the end talks about the Tri Shakti. What is Tri Shakti? Is the three goddesses who have manifested from Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva respectively. So Lord Varaha, he tells Prithvi. Now this is the Varaha Purana we know as a conversation between Varaha and Prithvi. So he says that once there was a great demon Andaka who was torturing and all the gods, everyone was very much disturbed. The gods, Brahma and so on. So Brahma then took all the gods to Lord Shiva and requested Lord Shiva that you find some solution to this problem. This demon Andaka is continuously coming and attacking all of us. It's becoming very difficult for us to live. So at that time Lord Brahma then meditated on also Vishnu, who also he also appeared immediately. And then from all the three deities, Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva, divine powers came in, and that's how they combined. And one goddess Parameshwari, the formation of the goddess Parameshwari was formed. And she created three more goddesses from her body: Brahmi, Vishnu Priya and Rudrani. Brahmi from Brahma, Vishnu Priya from Vishnu and Rudrani from Shiva. Brahmi was a bit fair, Vishnu Priya was, you can say, like brownish or wheatish complexion, and Rudrani was very ferocious like Lord Shiva, quite dark in her complexion. Brahma asked Brahmi, you do penance at Shvetagiri mountain, a mountain called Shvetagiri. Vishnupriya went to the Mandarachala mountains, and Lord Shiva, he told Rudrani that you go to the Nilgiri mountains to do a lot of tapasya. And it is said that while Vishnupriya was doing her penance, crores of goddesses, they manifested from her body. That's how we celebrate a lot of Shaktis and all that, right? What is Shakti? We have many goddesses. So they have all come from these three principal goddesses like Vidyut, Prabha, Chandrakanti, Suryakanti, Gambhira. Especially during the Navaratri time, we chant the names of all these goddesses. Jaya, Jayanti. And they are all, like, you can say, the escorts, or you can say the dasi, people who always move about with this goddess Vishnupriya, who is also called as Vaishnavi or Vishnupriya. Now one sage Narada, he comes and visits this goddess Vaishnavi, and he was amazed by her divine beauty. So because he had never seen such a beautiful woman ever before in his life. And while he was returning back, Narada met Mahishasura on his way. And now this Mahishasura was blessed by Brahma, and he had also established his rule over all the three worlds. And at that time Mahishasura kept on praising the glory of Mahishasura. Narada kept on praising the glory of Mahishasura and also talked about the beauty of Vaishnavi, saying that you should go and marry Vaishnavi. Narada said that I have never seen such a beautiful woman, she is fit only for you. So you see, and you are only worthy of becoming her husband. So see what you can do. So he sowed a seed of lust, you can say, in the minds of Mahishasura, and Mahishasura was obviously, being a demon, he was attracted towards Vaishnavi without even seeing her in physical form. So now next, Mahishasura took a vow that I am going to marry this goddess Vaishnavi at any cost. So then Lord Varaha, he continues, he tells that after telling this, Narada, he goes away, and Mahishasura, he called all his ministers and said that find out how I can marry Vaishnavi. And out of all his ministers, one of his ministers was very intelligent. So he warned Mahishasura. He told that this Narada is also a very shrewd sage. You do not listen to him because it can lead to your own destruction. So it is better that you be careful. So, but then, but still, Mahishasura was truly attracted towards Vaishnavi, and he did not listen to all of them. So somehow, finally, after a lot of discussion and all, they all agreed that let us do our best to tell Vaishnavi to accept Mahishasura as her husband. So all of them, they decided that let us send a messenger to persuade Vaishnavi to marry Mahishasura. And the second was, if this doesn't work, then let us defeat all the gods in the battle so that the goddess herself will come, and that's how Mahishasura can see and marry her on the spot in the battlefield. So this was a lot of discussion, a lot of planning that all of them were doing. And firstly, a demon called Vidyut Prabha, he was sent to meet this goddess Vaishnavi. And at the same time, Mahishasura, he attacked the gods also. So both these things, they took place simultaneously. The messenger demon Vidyut Prabha went to meet the goddess Vaishnavi, and at the same time Mahishasura, he attacked the gods. And he defeated them, and that's when all the deities, they started running here and there, and they finally reached Brahmaloka. And meanwhile, this Vidyut Prabha, he had reached Vaishnavi, and without showing any respect to the goddess, he tried to impress her by telling her the story of Mahishasura's birth and so on. And now what is that story? during ancient times there was a sage called Suparshva. This is the story of the birth of Mahishasura. So there was the sage called Suparshva, and he also did a lot of penance. And at that time, a demoness called Mahishmati, she with her companions, all of them, they came to the ashrama of this sage Suparshva. Mahishmati was very impressed with his hermitage and all that, and she decided to stay there. She changed her appearance and she became a buffalo. She took the form of a buffalo and she started troubling the sage Suparshva, who firstly he was a bit terrified, he was afraid, but later he came to know about her real identity. And Suparshva cursed her, saying that for the rest of your life you are going to remain in the form of this buffalo only. Now Mahishmati, she became extremely afraid and she begged him, saying that no, sorry, it became a mistake on my part. And Suparshva then said that you will get liberated from this curse once you give birth to a calf. So this was a condition that he told. Then Mahishmati, she started wandering here and there in the form of a buffalo, and finally she reached the bank of the river Narmada. There she saw a sage Sindhu Dvipa doing tapasya. And at that time what happens is that a few minutes or a few moments before that, what happened is the sage Sindhu Dvipa, he saw an apsara, very beautiful lady, coming in front of him, and she was also a rakshasi only. So looking at her, the Sindhu Dvipa was attracted towards her, and then he did not know, like at that time he lost the control of his penance, and it is said that his generative fluid had fallen on the ground there, that is on the bank of the river Narmada. And they fell on the nearby rock, and by the currents, that is by the waters of the Narmada, this were washed away. And this Mahishmati, this buffalo, she was thirsty. She drank the water which was mixed with the generative fluid of the Sindhu Dvipa. And this is the reason in course of time now she gets pregnant, and that's how this Mahishasura was born, who grew up to be a great mighty demon. Now please note one thing, in the case of animals or other creatures, the way of reproduction might be different. So now here we must not point questions saying that how come someone drinks water and how can a buffalo get pregnant. The ways of reproduction are different for every creature. So therefore, like few creatures also, even from the sweat that falls in, they can reproduce. So like this, there are many things that have been told. So here this is how the birth, and again these are all demons now. So they might not follow only the normal human way or proper animal way of reproduction. They might have their own ways too. So why I'm telling you this is, we must not get confused or just jump to conclusions saying that all this is just false, fiction, illusion and so on. So this is how Mahishasura was finally born. And now, so all this story Vidyut Prabha is telling the goddess Vaishnavi. So now this same Mahishasura, he wants to marry you. So and now Vidyut Prabha, he finishes his story, and now he is waiting for the goddess's response. Now the goddess started laughing loudly, and it is said that through her mouth all the three worlds could be seen by this demon messenger Vidyut Prabha. Vidyut Prabha, he was very scared, and he realized that this woman is very ordinary and extraordinary, divine. She is a great goddess. I did not realize at all. And at that time, Jaya is a Dwarapalika. Dwarapalika is the doorkeeper of goddess Vaishnavi. She said that our goddess has taken a vow of celibacy. She is not going to marry anyone. Hence, your master Mahishasura's wish is not going to be fulfilled. So it's better that you go back and do not waste your time anymore. And maybe you can find out some other lady for your master. And Vidyut Prabha, he went back, and at that time Narada came there to the spot and informed goddess Vaishnavi that all the gods have been killed at the hands of Mahishasura, and Narada requested Vaishnavi that you have to come and you have to please kill this demon Mahishasura. At that time immediately goddess Vaishnavi comes and she gets prepared for the battle. And most of the demons, everyone was killed, the army of Mahishasura was killed. And at that time a demon named Virupaksha informed Mahishasura about the different demons who had been killed by this goddess Vaishnavi. Mahishasura became very angry and he came forward to fight with the goddess. And goddess Vaishnavi, Narada had already told him about, and also the Vidyut Prabha, the messenger, had told him about the might of Mahishasura. So the goddess was well aware how to prepare and fight with this demon. She came having 10 arms and weapons like sword, bow, a mace, then a trishula, chakra and so on. She remembered Lord Shiva, and within a moment she requested Lord Shiva that you please be a witness to this battle. the battle started, and it lasted for about 10,000 divine years. Not one, not two, 10,000 divine years. Mahishasura ran here and there. He changed his disguise also in order to protect his life, but the goddess kept on following wherever he went. And ultimately she killed him at Shatashringa mountain by killing his head. Even today we have few temples and places of worship where Mahishasura's head is killed, and all the gods, they were very happy and they praised the goddess Vaishnavi. Similarly, goddess Rudrani, who had manifested from Lord Shiva, she had gone to Nilgiri mountains to do tapasya. She had also killed a mighty demon there called Ruru, and he ruled over Ratnapuri, a place called Ratnapuri, which was in the middle of an ocean. And due to a few boons received from Brahma, he was also very mighty and ferocious, but still somehow Rudrani managed to kill, the goddess managed to kill. And the same goddess Rudrani is known as Devi Chamunda, whom we again celebrate and pray during the Navratri festival, and she finally killed this demon called Ruru. Now these were the two stories of goddess Vaishnavi and Rudrani. With this, the Varaha Purana comes to an end, and Lord Varaha, he blesses Prithvi, and finally he returns back to his abode Vaikuntham. Okay, did everyone understand Varaha Puranam? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, ji.
Okay. So now we will start with the next Purana. Next Purana is going to be the Bhavishyat Purana. Now, Bhavishyat Puranam is quite small because it is basically going to talk only about the future. Future is for us, it is the recent past, as I told you yesterday also. But it is not, so that's the reason it's not very much in detail, but still to some extent we will have a look at that. Okay. Now, Bhavishyat Purana is considered to be the 11th Purana, and amongst all the 18 Puranas, Bhavishyat Purana is said to be the 11th Purana. Now again, this Purana is also divided into a few parts. The first part talks about different dates, different ways of worshipping Lord Vishnu, and also some reference to Lord Shiva as well as Surya. The second, third and the fourth parts, they talk about the greatness of these gods. Fifth part has a description of heaven, and again Bhavishya Purana, like all the other Puranas, also talks about a few kings, also about the Chandra Surya dynasties, and it also talks about a bit of aspects and other beliefs that are there, other religious beliefs that are there apart from Hinduism also. We will look at all that in detail. And mainly Bhavishyat Purana to some extent tries to show the supremacy of Brahma or the greatness of Brahma. Now the Bhavishya Purana also, some people call it as a history of the future. That is, mainly it talks about the future to some extent, what were the predictions that are being made. So this is how the Bhavishya Purana is regarding. It is said that Bhavishya Purana also to some extent, some people like the Britishers or Hitler, or even people like Max Muller, you have Marxism and all that part coming in, right, in history, Karl Marx. So some philosophies like that also, when you study the Bhavishyat Purana in detail, to some extent we find similarity. That is, Bhavishyat Purana makes such predictions. That is what is being said here. Okay. Now, in all there are about 7 chapters, and first is, it talks about modern history. In history you have something called ancient history, medieval history, modern history. The first chapter of the Bhavishya Purana deals with modern history, or you can also call it as in modern history, how we call BC, AD and so on. I think nowadays we don't use these terms, but at least about a few years back we used to have, right, before Christ and AD. So such time periods have been told. So that is the same thing here, modern history. So here Suta Goswami, now this Bhavishyat Purana is a conversation, or you can say is told by Suta Goswami. Now who is this Suta Goswami? Suta is the one. Suta Goswami is similar to Suta as per the Srimad Bhagavatam reference. So the sage Suta, who is there of Naimisharanya, he is the one who narrates most of the Puranas and the Mahabharata and the Naimisharanya forest. So it is the same Suta who is there. In some people also say that Roma Harshana's son Romaharshana is the one in the Brahma Purana. If you remember, we had seen that Romaharshana is the one who is telling all the 18 Puranas to the sages in the Naimisharanya forest. Some references say that the sage Suta is Romaharshana's son. So he was also a sage. So then this Suta, he starts talking about this Bhavishya Purana. So he says that once in Hastinapura, Pradyota, there was a person called Pradyota who was the son of Kshemaka. Kshemaka, he was leading an assembly of people, and at that time Narada comes in. Pradyota was very happy seeing the celestial Devarishi, and he honored him. And the sage then told Pradyota that your father was killed by Mlechas. Now what is a Mlechas? People belonging to other religions, or you can say a bit of like Mlechas, usually you can also consider them to be maybe tribals or not actually following the right path. So right path, or maybe we cannot term it as right or wrong, but maybe something different than what we actually do, not normal people do. Like for example, all of us now, maybe now in our group, say for example there are 17, 18 people who are there, we all usually, now though our habits might be different, our behavior is different, all that is there, but still we all to some extent will behave in the right way, right? Maybe every morning we get up, morning till evening we will do our daily duties and maybe go to work and other things. Towards the evening we have food and then we retire for the day. At night we go to sleep. So like, of course maybe the time might different. I might eat at 8, you might eat at 9, some person might eat at 7. More than that, the basic things that we do remain the same. So usually all of us, we belong to one category. So these Malechas or people like this, they are group of people who have their own ways of doing things. So usually you can consider people from other religions as such, or people who maybe do not follow the normal routine which many of us do. So here this sage Narada, he comes and tells this king Pradyota that your father was killed by the Mlechas, and therefore he has attained hell, that is Yamaloka, and you perform Mlecha Yajna, and then this after you do this, your father will attain heaven. So after this, immediately Pradyota, he called all the priests and he said that you start all this Yajna in Kurukshetra. They built a Yajna Kunda which was about 16 yojanas in square, that is equal to 128 miles. Now this is even the way how the Yajna Kundam has to be made. There are different shapes for it, like a square, rectangle, or even other shapes also. All this also has been mentioned in many places. So there is a science and a proper method also that has to be followed for doing all this. And they meditated on a lot of demigods and they offered oblations of different mlechas. So mlechas are those people, you can say, who worship demigods. Demigods in the sense like maybe Indra, Varuna, like those gods. Like Indra is a god of rain, right? So he is also going to worship ultimately Vishnu, Brahma, Shiva. So now the first category of gods, it is like second. Now again, this is not to show the discrimination between gods, but just to show like demigods, like maybe Apsaras or something like that. Now I'll give you a very simple example to understand this concept. Now we say that we must worship God, at the same time we must worship our parents. Parents are equal to God. But still, or we must worship our teachers, we must worship our elders, we must respect them. Still, will you term your elders and God on the same plate? Will you balance them? No. God is given first prevalence. That is, maybe you offer flowers or you do puja to God. You don't do puja to your elders, right? You respect them, you worship them, you honor them. That worship is different than the worship that we do to God, or we go to temples, we do pujas at our puja room that we do. That is different. That is because that is regarded one level high. So this is the same thing wherein the worship of natures and demigods is just one level low, just as we worship our elders, parents and so on. So you can say the comparison that is done between our elders and gods. So this Pradyota, he starts doing this sacrifice, and there were a lot of like Haras, Hunas, these are all different classes of these natures, Pallavas, Romajas. They are, so you can say like how we have tribal communities like this, there are these natures, and the people who are like this, maybe in the middle of the ocean in different islands all over the world, they come, and it is said that all these natures and all the negative elements that were there, they all got burned in this sacrifice. And then the king gave dakshina to all the priests, he performed abhisheka, and finally his father Kshemaka, he attained heaven. And after doing this, Pradyota, he became very famous as a Mlecha Hatya, or a destroyer of Mlechas. He ruled the earth for about 10,000 years and then he went to heaven. he had a son called Vedavan, who again ruled the earth for about 2000 years. Well, at that time, Kali Purusha, the Lord ruling over Kali age, he prayed to Narayana along with his wife. And the Lord appeared in front of him and said that this age is going to be very good for you, and I have different forms, and in this people will worship, and all your desires will be fulfilled. So he says that there is a couple named Adama and his wife Havyavati. Adama and Havyavati, they are born from Vishnu Kardama, a person called Vishnu Kardama, and they will increase this generations of Mlechas. Saying this, the Lord disappeared, and Kali Purusha, he went to Nilacha. He went back. And Vyasa, now he continues. Now we know the person who has composed the Puranas is Vyasa. So Vyasa now continues. He says that the further story. Now all this Suta is telling. So Suta continues. So Vyasa is like the first person, or you can say like the narrator who tells that, okay, further now Suta continues telling the story. How we have the anchor, right? So Vyasa does the similar part here. So Suta continues and he tells a full story of Kali Yuga. So he starts that this man named Adama was staying under a sinful tree, it seems, a Papa Vrikshaha. And he was eager, he wanted to see his wife Havyavati. The Kali Purusha immediately came there, assuming a form of a serpent. Now Kali Purusha, what exactly is Kali Purusha? Is in today's times now Kali, where do we find Kali Purusha? In gold or wealth. Like these things which are very attractive. Even if I will have 10 crores, still if someone says, no, I'll give you 1 more crore, we won't even that. At that time we won't think that, oh, I have got 10 crores, why should I even fight for that 1 crore? No, what we think is, no, this 10 will become 11 if I get that 1 crore also, right? And it is said that even at the back of our feet also Kali Purusha resides. That is the reason every time after using the washroom, bathroom or so on, and even after having our food, it is advisable to wash our feet, because Kali Purusha resides at the back of our feet. And whenever we wash our feet, many people, especially children also, they have this habit of just washing the front part, right? Or in a hurry, we just wash the front part and come. That should not be done at all. The entire feet from back should be washed. Some people have this habit of washing their feet right from the knees till the feet. But today's times, of course, if we wear these pants and all that, maybe we cannot do that. But at least the lower part of the feet, both front and back, especially the back foot, should be washed properly. That is again the residing place of Kali Purusha. So Kali Purusha can live everywhere. So this Adama also, he was waiting for his wife Havyavati, and at that time Kali Purusha takes the form of a serpent and is present. And it is said that this person who was living under that sinful tree, he ate all these kinds of fruits, and they started living simply by consuming fruits too, that not normal fruits, but it was a sinful tree. Sinful tree, mainly you can consider some trees that are there in the forest which are of not any use, like you cannot consume their fruits or flowers, leaves, nothing. They're just like just a tree that is there, is just there in the forest. But these people, this Adama and his wife, they started eating fruits which were not actually edible. So like this was their life, and they became Mlechas, it seems. And they had sons who were born to them. Now this Adama's duration, he lived for about 930 years, says the Bhavishya Purana. And he used to offer oblations, all sacrifices he used to do with fruits, because that is the only thing that he had seen all his life. And he went to heaven, it seems, with his wife. His son's name was Shvetanama. He lived for about 912 years. He had a son Anuta who ruled for about 812 years. His son was Kinasa, Malahala, Varada, Virada, Hamuka. Like this, there were different people who were there. But this Hamuka, who belonged to the same lineage of Adama, he was a great devotee of Lord Vishnu. And he also did a lot of oblations, and he also attained heaven. Now, what exactly is Mlecha Dharma? Mlecha Dharma is nothing but wherein you have good behavior, you have qualities like a priest, though you don't belong to the Brahmana community or a priest community, but still, or the teaching class that is there, but still the qualities that a person will have is equal to a Brahmana. And his behavior, wisdom, he will have good behavior, he'll be very wise, he'll be doing the worship of things. This is all Mlecha Dharma. Then it is said that the dharma of the Mlechas is devotion to God, worship of fire, that is doing sacrifice, non-violence, then doing a lot of austerities like different fast and so on, and controlling one's senses. Then once the Lord, it is said that, then there was another person called Nuha. Nuha, again, he was in the lineage of this Adama, and his name was Nuha. He was also a great devotee of Lord Vishnu. And at that time, the Lord appeared before Nuha and said that um, on the seventh day from today, there is going to be mass destruction everywhere. So therefore, you be very quick. You make a big boat and you ride on it. And if you do this, you will be celebrated as a great king. So you immediately do, because on the seventh day there is going to be mass destruction. So now only you make a big boat and you save yourself. So thus this person, he made a very big boat, and he did so much so that all the living people, or the entire living world that was there, he put them all into that boat, and then he himself rowed it, and they were all engaged in devotion, meditating on Lord Vishnu, and they rowed over the boat and went away. Lord Indra, what he did was, when all this was happening, Lord Indra, he poured rain continuously for about 40 days, 40. And the whole earth, Bharatavarsha, had emerged into water, all the four oceans came together, and only Badrikashrama, that is today's Badrinatha or Vishala as we call it, as it used to be called earlier, only that was not submerged, rest everything was submerged under water. And it is said that about 80,000 great people were there in Badrikashrama, like so-called sages, and so they also joined with Nuha and his family. And all of them were saved, and rest everything, the entire world was destroyed except for these few devotees of Badrikashrama and also Nuha and his family. And at that time, all the people, all the sages, and so they started praising Lord Vishnu. And Lord Vishnu, he reduced the waters, and exactly after 1 year, the earth became visible, and slowly the land mass could be seen. And it is said that King Nuha also, he came back to his place. Now this Nuha, he created a language. Now he also had many sons and so on. He created a language which was quite unfavorable to the Vedas. That is, it was not Sanskrit. Okay, now Veda Bhasha is Sanskritam. So this Mlechas, that's how we have developed different languages that have developed in India. So he created a language called the Brahmi Bhasha. Now though Brahmi is a lipi that we have script today, he created a language called Brahmi Bhasha, which was full of bad words and so on. Now let me tell you one thing. Bad words need not be only, maybe we call out bad words in each of us. Now every language has its own list of bad words, right? And all of us, whether you know good words or not, you will first know the bad words, right? So this is but obvious. Now what exactly is meant by bad words is that Sanskrit, or if you see a pure language like that, or any language for that matter, though it has got its own set of bad words or something, but still every language is very pure. But then you see in the same language, now let us say for example Hindi. Now the way this language Hindi is spoken, especially if you go to North India, you see Delhi and places like that, the Hindi that is spoken there will be very, very pure. Whereas the same you come to Mumbai, people living in Mumbai, the way we speak Hindi is very insulting for people who come from North. We don't mean anything, we are not insulting, or we are not actually using any bad words, but the way Hindi is spoken seems to be insulting for the North Indians. And the way, again, you go still down, maybe people living in the South also, the way they speak Hindi, maybe people living in Central India don't like it. But now South India is an exception, because there usually Hindi is not much prevalent, so therefore we have to give up on that. Whereas in Central and North India, we have this, so the Hindi language is the same, but the way of speaking differs. And that's when the North Indians, they don't like the way Hindi is being spoken. Or you take any other language also, this is the same thing. Depending on the place where we live, the way of speaking differs. So this Nuha also, to some extent, he created a new language called the Brahmi language. So it also had, like maybe a few words which the common people did not like at all. And it is said that the Lord himself gave him this language so that the Mlecha clan can grow about. And so this is how the world was being lived in those times. Now why this entire concept of Mlechas and so on has been told in the Bhavishya Purana, or rather you can consider this topic to be very boring, right? Because, or you will also maybe wonder saying that why even we have to think and know about all this, okay? There is a category of Mlechas, we just know about. Bhavishya Purana mainly stresses upon this. That is the reason today we have many languages, or you can say the same language that is spoken in different ways. You see, even on also, for example, you go to Karnataka. Let's take an example of Karnataka. We have many people from Bangalore, right? I of course not related to this, but you see now for I'll tell you my own experience with regards to the classes that we have taken in the last 2 years, last 2 or 3 years, that's from the COVID period. 90% of the people will be from Bangalore to talk with. They can be a North Indian, they are a South Indian or so on. And every time, like whenever they want to ask something, okay, I want to join your I want to join maybe the Veda class or Stotra class, or you just tell me about your class. It's not related to this, but I'm just telling you. Whenever they call, they will speak only in Kannada, and or even in maybe Telugu. Telugu is quite less, but Kannada. This is I'm telling you out of my personal experience. And I cannot speak Kannada. I can only understand. I cannot answer them back, right? And then I don't know, you speak either in English or Hindi. They don't speak in Hindi much, but then in English. So I'm telling you, this is common for all states. I'm not telling only Karnataka. So many people are mostly from Bangalore, if I assume. So I'm just giving an example of Karnataka. So you have the way even the Kannada language is spoken there will be different. Maybe in few parts, in the city part, that is, you take Bangalore and so on. Cities, maybe the way of speaking might be different. In villages, it will be different. This is applicable for all languages, even Tamil, Hindi, and so on. So the same thing here also. So this mainly in Mlechas, when we say, it is to show the other people belonging to other religions and other classes who developed new languages their own ways. Maybe the language will not have a script, grammar and everything of its own, but the way of speaking would be different. So why this concept has been told in the Bhavishya Purana, just to stress upon this point, that there are going to be different groups of people in future who will be speaking different types of languages, who will be following different traditions and customs. So then it is said that Sanskrit was a language which the whole Bharatavarsha was being praised and glorified, and the same language, once it went to some other country, it became a Mlecha language. That's how you have the Aryan invasion. This is the reference of Aryan invasion. That's how we have the confusion saying that did Aryans bring Sanskrit to India back from some other country, they say, right? Or you have some Sanskrit was being spoken in some other part and then it was bought again in India. All this, you have such claims that are being made. Now let's not get into this, that whether this is true or only after Aryans bought back Sanskrit did we start speaking in Sanskrit. That's all just, if you want to debate, you can debate on such things. But as far as you see, that cannot be the case, because we have already our Vedas and everything that has been written in Sanskrit. So we cannot give the claim to the Aryans saying that they have only bought back Sanskrit. They have only maybe introduced Sanskrit. Of course, they would have put in efforts to, maybe in those times wherein Sanskrit had disappeared totally, at that time it might have happened that the Aryans put in a lot of efforts to bring back or to revive the language that is there. But 100% claims of introducing and maybe discovering the language altogether, that those claims the Aryans surely cannot get. So this reference has been mentioned wherein we have the Aryans coming and introducing the language of Sanskrit. Then so all this has been told in the Bhavishya Purana till here. And then further we see that when the Kali Yuga, about 2000 years have passed, lot of Mlechas, they increase. So even today's times you see, right, Mlechas. Now again, please note that we must not compare this with different castes, so low caste, high caste. It is not like that. But maybe people not following their own ways at all. Now today also, if you see, many people, they will not follow like what to say, certain rules are prescribed for doing things, and mostly we don't do things in that way, and that's how we have to suffer, right? Now particular thing has to be done in the right way, we find there are a lot of corrupt ways that are done. You take a very simple example, the elections that take place, right? More than elections and more than you going and voting for someone, you have a lot of corruption that takes place. That's like a Mlecha concept wherein you don't follow the rules properly. That's where people tend to look upon you saying that a person is not following dharma rightly. So this exactly is the concept of Mlechas, and it is said that in the Kali Yuga all such things are going to increase. And again, the language of the Vedas, that is Sanskrit, was destroyed. Devotion to the Lord also reduced to some extent. And even certain words, for example water was called as paniyam. Even today in Sanskrit, old Sanskrit books, if you see, though we have toyam, jaladi, upadi and so on, we still have paniyam that was called in, that has been shortened today to just pani, right? We call it in Hindi pani. And then bubuksha hunger is bhuk, Hindi. So Hindi influence has come in. Hindi influence, Hindi though we say is the language of India, Hindi has also got a lot of influence from Urdu also. So that's how we have few places like Firozabad, Faridabad and so on. Or even in Hindi also, especially Kabir Das, Dohas and all, if you read, you can see a lot of words that are Urdu. So Hindi has got a mix of Urdu too. So that's where, so why all this has been told is, in the course of time, the main language of the Vedas that was there, it got destroyed, and many differences were being seen in that. Now, further it is said that you also have the introduction of Buddhism and Islam also. Like in the Bhavishya Purana now, direct reference is not told, like okay, this is Buddhism or this is Islam. They've just made a prediction that all this, just a prediction has been made that in future so and so things will happen, and at that time Islam and Buddhism will also be prevalent. Now, how far this is true, how far it is not true, still research and everything is going on. Maybe people belonging to other religions and so on, maybe Islam and Buddhism follow that. I personally have not read their books, so there can be a few differences in that. Whatever the Bhavishya Purana is telling, I am just trying to tell you. So the prediction of Islam has been made. So there was a king Shalivahana, a very famous king, and in his dynasty, in the dynasty of King Shalivahana, there were about 10 kings who lived, and that's when it is said that the morality of the earth, like people started developing a lot of evil and negative qualities during this time. And Bhojaraja was the 10th of the dynasty of Shalivahana. The 10th king was Bhojaraja. And when he saw that, and this Bhojaraja is from the Kalidasa reference, okay, from Kalidasa, the great Sanskrit poet. So Bhavishya Purana little touches upon Kalidasa and Bhojaraja. So when this Bhojaraja saw that a lot of this morality and everything is going down, so he went to all different directions, all the directions of this country, with about 10,000 soldiers, as commanded by Kalidasa. So Kalidasa was very much present then, and he had told Bhojaraja that you go in all the 10 directions with all your soldiers and see. And at that time he crossed, Bhojaraja is said to have crossed the river Sindhu, today's Indus river that we have, Sindhu, and he conquered over this Mlechas, the Kashmiris and people living in those areas. So maybe you can consider today's Pakistan, Afghanistan, the north side that is there. And he punished them, he collected a large amount of wealth. So mainly this Bhojaraja, he attacked that place that is there, the northern part, on the other side of the Sindhu river. Then the king, along with Muhammad, here we have the reference of Muhammad, who is a preceptor of Islam today. Muhammad, now all this King Bhojaraja, he went along with this Muhammad. Now on the other side of the Sindhu, if you see, today we have Pakistan and Afghanistan. In those times, or either the Sindhu river or the Indus river is the river that separates Pakistan and Afghanistan from India. In olden times, Gandhara Desham, Gandhari, from the Mahabharata reference, she was living in Gandhara Desham. She belonged to the Gandhara Desham, which was in Afghanistan. From there she was married to Kurukshetra, Hastinapura, which is in today's North India, Delhi, UP side, that is there. So in those times there were no laws, or you can say that you belong to some other country. Now today's times we don't have someone from Pakistan or Afghanistan, apart from a few, maybe you have these singers or celebrities, mostly then we don't prefer, right? But in those times, because Pakistan, Afghanistan, everything was under just one, the Indian subcontinent, people like Gandhari, she belonged to Afghanistan, or even Kaikeyi, she belonged to Keikaya Desham, and so on. So like this, we see that in those times the geographical India is not what is today's geographical India. So Bhojaraja and Muhammad, they both went together, it seems, and they met Lord Shiva, it seems, in a desert. And as usual, Bhojaraja, Lord Shiva was Bhojaraja's deity. He worshipped him with different milk. He did abhisheka with milk, ghee, with the panchagavyam and everything, sandalwood paste. He offered some prayers and Lord Shiva was pleased. Lord Shiva comes and tells Bhojaraja, you should go to this place called Mahakakshvara. and this place is being lived by the Mlechas and so on, so you should go there, and dharma does not exist at all, so you should go and do some dharma karyam there. There is also a demon called Tripura. I have burnt him to ashes, and he has come again now, so his name is now Mahoda, and he also has done a lot of deeds like a ghost and so on. So all this Shiva tells is Bhojaraja. And listening to all this story and listening to all this of what Shiva had told him, Bhojaraja comes back and he meets Mohabbat now on the banks of the river Sindhu. And at this time what happens is that when they meet, when again Bhojaraja meets Muhammad on the banks of the Sindhu, Muhammad little starts talking ill about Shiva. This is what has been told in the Purana, and it is said that king became very surprised. Bhojaraja became very surprised. Says that sometime back you were praising and we both were living together, right? There was unity. So just because now I have started worshipping my Lord, you have come and you're maybe speaking a bit ill about that. What happened? So he was just surprised. And it is said that on this reference you will also get in Kalidasa's story. It is said that at this time Kalidasa gets angry and he tells Muhammad that you have now maybe changed the mind of the king and so on. Like this is somewhat related to the conversions that take place in today's times from one religion to another. Now it need not be only from maybe Hindus to Muslims. It can be for Muslims also. They will think if someone transforms into a Hindu, for them also it is like an insult, right? So let's not speak any other religion. So mainly getting converted, or mainly like going against, like if I'll give you one example to explain on this. If we say, if I keep on telling you something like, no, what you're doing is wrong, what you're doing is wrong, you're worshipping so and so god, this is very wrong, very wrong. Maybe from inside you know that what you're doing is right, but still continuously when someone tells you, at least 10% were influenced, right? You say, oh, maybe what I'm doing is wrong, right? So that's how this influence took place. And Bhojaraja also, when Muhammad told him that way, he also got a bit confused, and Kalidasa gets very angry on this, and he tells his Muhammad that I'm going to kill you because you are the one who has created this illusion. And that's where it is said that the place which is today's Medina, Mecca, Medina, that the Muslims, for them it's a very religious place of pilgrimage. So that is a place which is free from Medina. Medina, that is Madira, as we say in Sanskrit. Medina, that place has come which is free from intoxication. So there's free from all kinds of maybe evil habits that are there. And at that time it is said that, so that's how little reference of the pilgrimage spot of Muslims has also been mentioned. It is said that Muhammad, he appeared in the dream of Bhojaraja, and he tells him a lot of things about his religion and also about Islam and the ways of Islam that they have, like animal rituals and the way they do the rituals, the namaz that they do and so on. So little bit reference is given even in that. And it is said that Bhojaraja, so all this happens in his dream only. But then Bhojaraja was quite intelligent, so he did not immediately get, though he got influenced in the beginning, later he realized, and he came back and he maintained good terms with Muhammad also, and he came back to his own country. So that is the reason Bhojaraja, on the other side of the Sindhu that we have Pakistan, mostly people following Islam, and on this side of the Sindhu river we have mostly Hindus who are there. That's how we have got this name of Hindus. From Sindhu it has become Hindu. That's how this name has come, and people who follow the dharma here, that's how this religion's name also has come about. And then this Bhojaraja, of course, he did not get too influenced later, and he established Sanskrit also. He brought back his dharma, and it is said even the Prakrita Bhasha, that is there, Prakrit also we find, that also was introduced for the people. And after ruling for many years, he also went back to heaven, and he had also established Aryans. The Aryans, they started living there. I told you how Sanskrit came about, then they brought about Sanskrit again. And between the Vindhyas and Himalayas. So that part between the Vindhya mountains and Himalaya mountains was occupied by Aryans, and on the other side of the Sindhu river you have the Muslim community that was living. That is in today's, if you see, the border part of India. Next, you also have the prediction of Buddhism that has been told. Now, if anyone wants to read more on this, I will just tell you the chapter number also. Now in Bhavishya Purana you have a sarga called the Pratisarga Parva. Pratisarga Parva, the third part of Pratisarga Parva is Islam, and the 29th part of Pratisarga Parva talks about Buddhism a bit. So once there was in a country called Chitraratha, it is said that people who were living in other planets apart from Earth, heavenly people, they used to come, it seems, during the autumn season, that is roughly in the month of October, November, beginning of winter. So they used to come during that time, and one day an Apsara came to an ashrama of the sage Shuka who was residing, and seeing the beautiful Shuka there, handsome Shuka, the lady, she got attracted and she tried to maybe sing and dance and try to distract rather the sage Shuka, and she praised him and so on, and somehow she pleased Shuka Muni. And Shuka at this time he calls this Apsara, her name was Manju Ghosha. He calls her and says that, what do you want, you tell me. And she tells that, no, I want you to become my husband. At that time the sage accepted, and after some time the son was born to them called Muni, who was very good, and he performed a lot of austerities and everything up to 12 years. And then he married. After a few years, when he had attained the marriageable age, he married Swarana Devi, the daughter of Swarana Devi, the god of gold. Swarana Deva, he was a god of gold, and they gave birth to a daughter called Kinnari, and that's how she prayed. Now this Kinnari, this daughter, she was very beautiful, and she prayed to Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva said that up to 30 years you will enjoy your country in the middle of this earth, and then it will be destroyed. After hearing this, Muni, he went to his place and he resided there. Now, who was this Muni? I told you, Muni is the one. Shuka's son is Muni. Muni's daughter was this Kinnari. So then Lord Shiva, what happens is that, so this Muni, what happens is Muni prays to Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva comes in front of this Muni and tells that for 30 years you will live about, and then as soon as the 29th year came in, battle-like situation started, as if destruction is going to take place. And Bauddha, it is said, attacked the people of Netrapala. Now this reference that is there is somewhat similar to the Buddhavatara that we see of Lord Vishnu, as well as the Gautam Buddha reference of Buddhism and so on. But still the confusion of whether Gautam Buddha and Buddhism is quite different, and Krishna Avatara and the 10 avatars Vishnu, whether that Buddha is the same and Gautam Buddha, are they two different Buddhas or it is one and the same? Still this confusion is not very clear, but that is not mentioned here. At least I am not able to make out till date, because some things seem to be similar, sometimes it is not similar, but then people mainly they don't consider, because Buddhism and Hinduism are quite different, so therefore in Vishnu's incarnations Buddha cannot be there. But then with reference to the place that is there, Gautam Buddha also comes to Gaya and Buddha in Bihar, and then this Buddha was also born nearby, but the names of their mothers are quite different, so that can be, therefore we can regard them as different Buddhas. He was Gautama Buddha, he Sugata Buddha, and so on. So like this there are differences also, but then is that totally different? If so, then what did this Buddha who took an incarnation as Vishnu do? So little reference we get in the Bhavishya Purana also, but still it does not feature more about whether both the Buddhas are different and so on. So in detail little has been mentioned about Buddhism. So today time is up. We will stop here for today. So Bhavishya Purana, if you see in general, you can consider it to be not very interesting. At the same time, informative. So it just wants to touch upon a few points that are there, what you are going to see in future. Because in those times, if you see, at least with regards to Islam that we saw, today we have a lot of Hinduism, Islam and so on. A few years back, maybe in the times of Mahabharata and so, we did not have this. Otherwise, Gandhari would have never come from Afghanistan, Gandhara Desham. Kaikai would have never come from Kaikai Desham and so on. So things were very common there, because those countries, the other part of the Sindhu river was also a part of the Indian subcontinent. So of course there could be a few riots that happened, but then usually there was unity, but today because there is a lot of partition and everything that has taken place, we have developed a lot of maybe enmity, and we see a lot of fights and everything that happens between religions as well as people. So Bhavishya Purana, therefore, it tries to predict things that in future you will have a lot of differences, the same thing that we see today. So the main purpose of Bhavishya Purana is just to show us and highlight upon the differences that you are going to see in the beliefs of the people, which is going to result in a few misunderstandings and fights. So with this we will stop here, we will continue next week. So